It's often said that to push your limits, you must first find them. And that's the subject of today's video. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Road to Ironman. Today is cycling FTP test and I'm scared. Let's go. Let me introduce you to the FTP test. It's commonly known in cycling and triathlon and used both by professional and amateurs. The idea is to try to define the maximum power that you can push for an hour. There are several ways to assess what's your functional threshold power, how much power you can push for an hour at your maximum. We can talk a lot about which test is more accurate and if the number you get is actual reflection of your actual potential. For me, you choose a test and you accept that it's not maybe a perfect test, but by always measuring the same test, you can actually look at your progression. And for me, looking at the progression is much more important than actually looking at the result. So in my case, I've chosen in the past the ramp test. The ramp test consists of actually a test in an indoor bicycle, in an indoor setup, where the power, the resistance is progressively increased every minute. And then you continue until basically you can't push it. You can't push the pedal anymore, you can't continue. So if you have a connected home trainer, you set up the software. Again, I've used Zwift. I introduced you before to this software. And you just let the software guide you, and the software will automatically increase the resistance in the pedal. So it gives you instruction, and it talks about how you have to perform the test. It's really important to do a long warm-up before, which I did before starting this test. This is actually a capture of my test. So you start at a really easy power, around 100 watts for a minute, and then every minute, as I said, the power increased by 20 watts. And you just have to keep going. The idea is you have to go as smooth as possible and just keep going and keep going. I really hate doing these tests, first of all because they are extremely painful. It's not every day that you are pushing yourself to the limit, and you should not every day push yourself to the limit. It's not an efficient and safe way of training. And I'm always a bit nervous, so some days I would have started the test and my heart rate is already over the roof. I can hear my heart beating with the stress just of the test and how much it's gonna hurt. So you see here, nice and smooth with both power and cadence. So we really talk about keeping this rotation smooth. And you see when we look at the number up there, you can actually see my heart rate, the number of beats per minute, and you can see my cadence, so around 85 rotation per minute, and that's what I aim to follow for this test. Usually people talk about being between 85 and 95 for this kind of test, and you will see it's really hard to keep going. So now we have 2 seconds before the new interval. And up, now I have to push 140 watts for a minute. And again, what I like about this test is I don't have to think about it. Basically, the resistance is adjusted and I just have to keep pushing and it increased by itself. We speed it up a bit because otherwise we are gonna be there for all of it. Love when they ask if you are still doing fine, because honestly at 160 watts I'm already quite tired. And there are these messages, and they talk about how the tests come really quickly from I'm fine to I'm fried, which is exactly what happened. So we are now at 180 watts, and without spoiling it, I'm gonna slow it down now because we are getting really close to my absolutely limit. So you just continue. You're back in normal speed now. if it feels a bit slow. And they explain how this process are really important and we have to dig really deep to get the most out of ourselves. So by this time you start to get some kind of tunnel vision where you're just thinking, I just have to get to the next stage. I just have to get to the next stage. Heart rate is really high now, 174. So really now I'm really starting to struggle. And you just have to keep focusing on like, okay, can I pedal one more? Can I pedal one more? Just keep on going to try really to reach your absolute limit, which is really difficult. And you see the countdown, so you can try to fix little objective for yourself. Okay, I'm doing one more and it's only 30 more seconds. The breathing is really heavy. Yes, one more done. It's definitely starting to darken there. They talk about keeping your hands loose on the bars because it's actually really difficult. As you try really to push, you have a tendency to grip the bars, and obviously we want the power to come from your legs and to have a relaxed position. You can see I've increased my cadence, 19 rotation per minute, because I can't follow the power with just a lower cadence. So I'm just like trying to give it all in. I'm not relaxed at all at this point in time. And really, I'm not sure how long I can hold it. Just rewatching this is actually really painful. A little bit more. Allez. Don't give up. Dying. Free. Basically, the software takes in account what was the most power you could push for a full minute, not 58 seconds, a full minute, does an average, and based on that, it does an estimate of what you could hold if you were really pushing to your maximum for an hour. And for me, here is the result, 183 watts. My only point of reference is another test I did last year at the beginning of January, where I got 181. Good. I took it as a victory, actually. I was quite pleased, and you can see I have a big smile because I feel like I'm starting the season in a good place. Usually in the cycling world, people relate this to your weight, and they divide the number of watts you can produce divided by your weight in kilogram, and we talk about watts per kilo, because obviously the bigger you are, the bigger your muscle are, the more you can push, and easier it's to generate power. So people who want to draw comparison always look at watts per kilo. So here you have it, my FTP test. So now we know where I'm at, and the idea is to redo this test in 10 weeks when we have done lots of strength work, and to see how this evolves. I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you enjoy seeing me suffering. It's always interesting. I see you soon for the next video.